It is a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is a New York Times best-selling author. My favorite book happens to be Treason, but maybe you disagree. You can also follow her on Twitter at Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here.
Now, let's go ahead and get into all of this Joe Biden stuff, because I am of the belief that his name may not be on the ballot in November. And I say that because he can't complete a thought. He can't finish a sentence. And all he's doing right now are friendly interviews. He gets to sleep in his own bed every night. He's not flying on planes. He's not switching time zones. He should be tan, rested, and ready. And he looks like Walter Matthau in Grumpy Old Men every time he's on TV. He fell asleep during the Hillary Clinton endorsement. And then you have this former staffer, Tara Reid, who's alleging that he digitally raped her back in the 1990s when she was working at his office. And everyone just ignored it. They just pretended like this woman didn't exist. But then there would be different wrinkles that would pop up. And every time there was a new wrinkle that would pop up, it would give credence to her case, including a neighbor who says that they're an ardent Biden supporter who said that Tara Reid told her about it right after it happened. He then had a tape from Larry King Live where Tara Reid's mother called in and alluded to some inappropriate activity that happened to her daughter while working for a U.S. senator. And now she's saying that former Vice President Biden should release his papers back when he was a U.S. senator because there could theoretically be HR documents in there that could prove her case. He's refusing to do that. As you look at all of this in totality, I'm saying to myself, there's a chance that this campaign could completely implode, and the Democrats could shift from just ignoring it and defending it to turning on him and replacing him with one of these governors that's on TV every day. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's not implausible. A couple of comments on that. First of all, the entire Tara Reid affair shows us again the main point of my last book, Resistance is Futile. We've got to take the media out back and have a sharp bullet to the head. They've been unbelievable in this. Absolutely no reporting on Tara Reid. When they finally do it, it was such a long time ago. Really? It wasn't any longer ago than the Brett Kavanaugh accuser. The Brett Kavanaugh accuser had no contemporaneous witnesses, none. The ones she cited denied it. She was a loon who had allegedly couldn't make it to the hearings because she was afraid of confined spaces. And then we find out her main hobby is, surfing in Bali. I mean, just one ridiculous aspect to that woman after another, and that was as big a hoax as the media's Ferguson hoax, or the Russia hoax, and so on and so forth. I don't know if you saw, you probably did, Chris Hayes on MSNBC, gently, tepidly raised the issue of Tara Reid. Now MSNBC's viewers are demanding that he be fired. He's certainly getting disciplinary action.
In fact, we have that tape. Let's go ahead and listen to Chris Hayes on MSNBC.
Hold on, here it is.
Things should be believed on its face, but that you do have to fight yourself when you feel that impulse. You have to do that in order to take seriously what is being alleged and what the evidence is and to evaluate it. And that is the case with the accusation by a woman named Tara Reid against Joe Biden. Reid briefly worked as a Senate aide in Biden's office in the early 90s. Last year, she told a California newspaper that in 1993, Joe Biden, quote, touched her several times, making her feel uncomfortable. Now, at that time, Reid was one of several women who came forward around that moment with accusations against the former vice president of inappropriate sort of over-physicalness, touching, kissing, or hugging that they say made them feel uncomfortable. Then last month, she made a much more serious allegation, telling first a podcast and later the New York Times that in 1993, Joe Biden pinned her to a wall in the Senate building, reached under her clothing, and her with his fingers. Reid told the Times that she filed a complaint with the Senate that same year about what happened with Biden. Quote, she said she did not have a copy of it and such paperwork has not been located. Now, Reid also said she complained to Biden's executive assistant, as well as to 2 top aides about harassment by Mr. Biden, not mentioning the alleged assault. All 3 of those people who were interviewed by the Times deny having any memory of a complaint. A spokeswoman for Joe Biden says the allegation is false, and they have strongly denied it. This week, there was also a new development in the story, and that is that Tara Reid's former neighbor at the time went on the record with her name, telling Business Insider that in 1995 or 1996, a few years after this, that Reid told her she had been assaulted by Biden.
And by the way, that woman is a Biden supporter. So now the media is starting to talk about it, finally. And it isn't until now that all the feminists in the Democratic Party are coming out and publicly endorsing Joe Biden, including Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton.
One other, and I ought to say, I was the last one to believe this. I mean, that doesn't mean I didn't think the media should cover it or should avoid covering it. They covered the nonsense with Stormy Daniels. We heard the Access Hollywood tape. We got the Christine Blasey Ford with the 2 front doors because she was allegedly sexually assaulted 20 years ago. I loved the 2 front doors. But I worked in the Senate or with the Senate Judiciary Committee. I worked for a low-down enough senator that we weren't specifically assigned to a committee. We had to cover lots of them, but it was Senate Judiciary Committee. So I saw Biden. He was older then, but I was when the allegations first arose. I didn't work for him, obviously, but I saw him, and it didn't seem very plausible to me. But now, I got to say, you have a lot of evidence. There are the things you've cited, the next-door neighbor. I think there's another friend that's come forward. Also, interestingly, the far-left writer passed away a few years ago, very far left, formerly of The Nation magazine, I think it was, not Salon. It was The Nation. Alexander Coburn. He wrote a piece in 2008 when Obama picks Biden as his vice presidential candidate, going through this and that. I mean, he was attacking Biden for not being liberal enough. That was the gist of the column he wrote. And then right there in one of the early paragraphs, he talks about how Biden, is a well-known sexual harasser and how he or this magazine has talked directly to a recipient of this sexual harassment. I just tweeted that one out earlier today. The call to Larry King from Tara Reid's mother, which CNN has taken down. Again, bullet to the head of the media. We will take no more pleas. No, we'll try to do better next time. No, they cannot be trusted. The media's got to be burned to the ground, and so something more ethical can arise in its place. But now, I mean, the indicia that a normal person would look for all seem to be there. They're very credible allegations. I will say we've known, at least since Clinton, although some of us kind of suspected it, that this sexual harassment law has nothing to do with protecting women. It isn't people who care about women and think that women shouldn't, have their bosses dropping their pants in front of them, groping them, raping them. No. It's always been a political weapon that only works. It's like a subway card. It only works against Republicans. I had been working at a public interest law firm defending sexual harassment cases that involve things like professors at colleges giving what they would say in a huge lecture course. One guy did a simile saying, the belly dancer's stomach was like Jell-O on top of a plate, on top of a vibrator. It was something like that. I'm pretty close to that. And one woman, he wasn't speaking to one person in particular, one woman sitting in the lecture hall sues him for sexual harassment. He gets punished by the college. Those were the sorts of cases we were defending, and it took a lot of work. I knew about sexual harassment law. They involved cases that would go to trial of a man having a vacation photo of his wife in a bikini on the beach. That was deemed, hostile environment in the workplace. Then we get Bill Clinton dropping his pants and saying, "Kiss it," having state troopers bring innocent little women far, far below him in the state hierarchy to his office. And Gloria Steinem writes an op-ed piece in the New York Times saying, yes, but he took no for an answer. So she launched the one free grope rule. So I think the media has been exposed. The feminists have been exposed. And as for Biden, and I mean, I hate to laugh about it because it's really sad to see him. It reminds me of Mueller. This really looks like elder abuse to me. And the new point, I suspect no one else has made on Biden, because you all don't watch MSNBC. There was much made of the fact that in the 2018 election, that black women in particular, were the ones. Oh, they saved the country. They voted for Democrats. And remember, I don't know if you remember this, all of the hatred for white women who voted for Trump in 2016. These traitors to their gender. So we've been hearing on MSNBC forever about how, thank God for black women voting Democratic. Biden never, ever would have gotten the nomination. I mean, he was coming in like fourth in every caucus, every primary, until he hit South Carolina. And suddenly, James Clyburn said, nope, we're voting for Biden. And throughout the South, all those primaries, the black voters in Democratic primaries voted for Biden. So, Democrats.
Well, so Biden apparently...
How do you like it now? Obviously, they want to dump this guy. I will say something that furthers your theory. I forget where I read this, but it was a very interesting point, and that is because Cuomo, the great savior, where people are dropping like flies in his state, but he gets on TV and talks about meatballs, so liberal women are swooning for him. Since he canceled I think he was the one, maybe it was, must be, maybe it was the Democratic Party, canceled the Democratic primary in New York State. Biden does not currently have enough delegates to have the nomination. Meaning, there might be enough primaries that are left, but if other states, you don't need many, follow suit, you could go into that convention without Biden having the nomination sewn up, and we could finally have the thing that everyone's been predicting, and I've been saying, no, it never happens, drop the contested convention, the brokered convention idea. You can actually have a brokered convention.
If that were to happen, who do you think they'd go with? Do you think that they would go with one of these governors that's on TV every day, or do you think Hillary would rise from the dead?
No, I think they'd take Biden over Hillary.
Well,
no,
Biden is going on.
That woman.
He's going on Morning Joe tomorrow to try to do damage control, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, all right, that would make sense because he's still in the Democratic primary, so going on MSNBC will give him an opportunity to talk to Democratic voters. But that show could be problematic for a bunch of reasons. One, they were the ones that ran around attacking all the Al Franken accusers, including Leanne Tweeden, my former colleague here at KABC, viciously, I might add. They were also the ones that had Mark Halperin on the show and then defended him after he was taken off the air after really serious allegations of sexual misconduct came out against him. And their relationship started from a workplace romance when they were married to other people. I wouldn't be worried about what Joe Biden's going to say on their show tomorrow. If I'm a Democrat, I'm worried about what those two are going to say and get Joe Biden in trouble.
It sounds like the perfect crew to interview Biden. They seem to be the cleanup crew for pervert Democrats. No, we'll attack your accusers. Don't worry. They're probably, ferociously investigating Tara Reid right now. God help her if she ever got a parking ticket, speeding, DUI. It's all coming out. It's all coming out because, Democrats take sexual harassment and sexual assault so very, very seriously.
Let's go ahead and listen to Nancy Pelosi on this subject. She was on
that was
CNN
great.
with Allison Camerata, and here is that exchange.
Speaker, I also want to ask you about former Vice President Joe Biden and about this allegation that is being made by one of his former Senate staffers. Do you think that it is time for Vice President Biden to address this head-on himself?
Well, I have great sympathy for any women who bring forth an allegation. I'm a big, strong supporter of the Me Too movement. I think it's been made a great contribution to our country, and I do support Joe Biden. I'm satisfied with how he has responded. I know him. I was proud to endorse him on Monday. Very proud to endorse him, and so I'm satisfied with that.
And here's more.
I mean, he hasn't, to be clear, he hasn't addressed it. His campaign has addressed it, but he has not directly addressed it. Should he directly, publicly address it?
You know, it's a matter that he has to deal with, but I am impressed with the people who worked for him at the time saying they absolutely never heard one iota of information about this. Nobody ever brought forth a claim or had anybody else tell them about such a claim. But again, we have an important election at hand, one that is, I think, one of the most important ones that we've had. We say that every election, but I think this one is the most crucial. And I supported him because he's a person of great values, integrity, authenticity, imagination, and a connection to the American people. He understands the kitchen table issues of America's working families. His father lost his job when he was a boy. He knows what that feels like for a family, and how they're going to pay their bills, their health bills, the education of their children, supporting the seniors in their families and the rest. It's just he's the personification of hope and optimism for our country, and I was proud to endorse him. And America needs a person like Joe Biden with his integrity and his vision for the future.
You know, Ann, I'm a big fan of Allison Camerata. I used to work with her. I know you are too.
Yeah,
but my God, whenever I'd go on with her, I was never able to finish a sentence. She asked her a question about Joe Biden being accused of rape, and the answer includes talking about his father being laid off when he was a child, and she doesn't get cut off?
Yeah, not only that, you can watch these shows. Well, they don't have conservatives on at all anymore, but back when they used to have conservatives on, you could be in the gym watching one of these programs with the sound off, and if you had no idea who the guest was, you could tell Republican or Democrat by the anchor's face. If it was a conservative, it would be like the anchor had just bit into a lemon. If it's a liberal, it's my friend, it's old home week. So happy to see you. One myth I would like to dispel here. This idea that it took liberals to bring forward the Me Too movement and, we support the Me Too movement. No. It was liberals who covered up for these guys year after year, decade after decade. Hollywood is not known as, Liberty University. It was liberals covering for these guys because we don't need to protect this guy anymore. Okay, let's pretend we care about sexual assault.
I think you're right.
I mean, remember,
in fact, I'd put money on it.
Cyrus Vance, the Democrat DA of New York, who had let Weinstein off the floor when he had a tape recording of him admitting to it. No, they covered up for all these guys. You're telling me nobody at, again, not known to be, Fox News, NBC, nobody knew about Mark Halperin? No, they're the ones who covered up for these people until, we don't need to anymore. Let's pretend we care.
And we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for stopping by. Always a pleasure.
Good to talk to you.
Likewise. And you can follow Ann on Twitter at Ann Coulter. Get her online at anncoulter.com. That's where you can find her columns as well.